This thing is basically a computer now. It's like a laptop. It is a laptopless, computerless laptop computer. I don't know if that made any sense, but it is. What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, BMAC. And if this is your first time here to this channel, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you smash that subscribe button with all notifications turned on so that you never miss another video on this channel. And if you've been here before, if you're already subscribed, welcome back. So yes, indeed, today we are breaking down the brand new M1 iPad Pro. And this year, we actually have two new models of the new M1 iPad Pro. Yes, of course, we have the 11-inch and the 12.9-inch, but this year, the difference between the two models isn't just screen size. We'll get into all that throughout the course of this review and hopefully decide which one's best for you, but let's start things out as we typically do by talking about the design and how things are looking on the outside of the M1 iPad Pro. The design is pretty much what we're used to by now. It's pretty much the same design we've had for a few years now, which means you've got your squared off edges, you got your single power button on the top right-hand corner of the device, you got your volume buttons on the left side of the device, and of course, your stereo speakers on the top and the bottom, all of that with no home button and just slight bezels around the display itself. You are also getting this camera bump on the back with the two lenses and the LiDAR scanner, and that beautiful shiny Apple logo on the back. So sexy. All of this, of course, complete with the matte aluminum finish, your smart connector on the bottom here, and your USB-C port, which is actually now a Thunderbolt USB-C port. And speaking of that matte aluminum finish, only two different color finishes you could choose with this aluminum siding. You could choose either space gray or silver. So realistically, not a whole lot to comment on here as it relates to design. Pretty much what we would expect from a upgraded version of the iPad without a redesign. Things have pretty much stayed the same, but I am still mind blown with the power that is packed into this thing with how thin it is. This is literally a computer in there. I still can't get over that. But I do want to comment on how I think it's pretty cool that Apple does seem to be going with some kind of synergy here where all of its items are kind of going for the same look, squared off edges, rounded corners. I'm actually a huge fan of that. So yes, design, can't say anything bad. It's a design I love, besides the fact that you still have this uneven camera bump on the back, but besides that, I like it. But here is where things start to get drastically different this year, and that has to do with the display and what the display is looking like on both of the different models. Yes, with the M1 iPad Pro, as you would come to expect, we still do have two different sizes of displays. You got the 11-inch model and the 12.9-inch model. The 11-inch M1 iPad Pro offers a Liquid Retina display, while the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro offers a Liquid Retina XDR display. And that's the big difference here. 3 letters, XDR. 3 letters that is completely differentiating the 12.9-inch model from the 11-inch. But what does XDR actually stand for? Well, it actually stands for Extreme Dynamic Range. And that's because of the awesome contrast ratio that this mini LED display is providing. On the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro, that mini LED and the XDR display means you're gonna be getting true to life detail with a 1,000,000 to 1 contrast ratio. That's gonna get you the extended dynamic range, allowing you to enjoy your favorite HDR content. And honestly, the XDR display, I love it. It has everything I love about OLED technology without some of the drawbacks that OLED technology actually creates. So you're getting an incredible, vivid viewing experience no matter what it is you're doing on the iPad Pro. And since it's an Apple XDR display, you're also getting those Apple display algorithms, which is going to allow Apple to give you a more consistent and prolonged viewing experience outside of what OLED displays typically provide. All of this awesome XDR display technology is only on the 12.9-inch model. Plus, on the 11-inch M1 iPad Pro model, you're only getting 600 nits of maximum brightness. I'm telling you, the XDR display in the 12.9-inch model, you could tell the difference. The contrast ratio, the vividness, the high dynamic range, all that you could visually see, and it changes the entire way you experience the content that you're either creating or consuming on the tablet. And I just can't wrap my head around why Apple would only implement this on the 12.9-inch model. Like, I don't get it. The size of this iPad Pro, 11-inch, this is more like my speed. This is just what I personally prefer as it relates to my iPad experience. And the fact that I have no option here, no possibility of experiencing the XDR greatness on this size model, I hate it. I like the additional portability of the 11-inch model as opposed to this behemoth 12.9-inch model, and I just don't like being forced into a corner where if I want that XDR technology, I've gotta lug this thing around. Yes, I know, it's still super portable as it is, it's super thin, I get that, but I just like the screen size of the 11-inch. That's my take on it. Maybe you don't care, maybe you prefer the 12.9-inch larger display size anyway, but I think it's very odd that Apple decided to put XDR displays in only the larger screen size models. One positive takeaway here though is that of course you do still get 120 Hz refresh rate on both models. So ProMotion, 120 Hz refresh rate on both the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro and the 11-inch M1 iPad Pro. But of course, one of the main things we gotta talk about here is what's changed on the inside of the M1 iPad Pros and how performance is actually changing. Obviously, we've already mentioned this here probably 1,000 times already. We do have the new Apple Silicon chipset in the iPad Pros now. So M1 chip in the iPad Pro, same exact chip we get in the iMac, the Mac Mini, the MacBook Pro, which means they're getting an 8-core CPU with 4 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores, and an 8-core GPU. It's just remarkable how efficient, fast, and reliable the Apple Silicon chipset has proven to be already, and that experience is no different in the iPad Pro. Everything is super smooth, blazingly fast, just so awesome. So I love the fact that we're getting the Apple Silicon chipset rolled out across the entire Apple product line. All of this on top of the 16-core neural engine, Apple Pencil support, and the fact that you could use this with the new Magic Keyboards that Apple has. It just makes this thing a complete laptop without it being an actual laptop. It's a laptop without being a laptop. And I've done some performance tests, we've seen the results. The iPad Pro is now just as, if not more powerful than hundreds, if not thousands of laptops and tablets already on the market. In terms of storage options, you actually have 5 different storage options to choose from. Things start out at 128 gigs, then they jump up to 256 gigs, then 512 gigs, 1 terabyte, and then things top off at 2 terabytes. And outside of storage being for storage, there's something else to keep in mind here because you actually get 2 different RAM options, 2 different memory options depending on the storage size you choose. You're getting 8 gigs of RAM with the 128, 256, and 512 gigabyte models, but things jump up to a whopping 16 gigs of RAM with the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte options. How much RAM you're gonna need, of course, is gonna depend on what you plan on doing with the iPad Pro. Naturally, the more RAM, the better. The heavier the workload that you're gonna be putting on your iPad Pro, the more likely it is you'll benefit from those higher memory options. So just keep that in mind in addition to your storage options when you're choosing, because both of those things, of course, are gonna go hand in hand with what your iPad Pro experience is gonna be like. And I've known for a while now several creators out there who've actually been using an iPad Pro as their main workhorse station for their content creation even before they got the M1 chipset. So now with the M1, things have become even more likely to become possible on a tablet, but I do just wish we got a little bit more pro app development for iPad OS because things are still not quite where I think they need to be where it comes to pro level apps on the iPad Pro, but and let's not forget the fact that, of course, you still do have the Wi-Fi or the Wi-Fi and cellular options for the iPad Pro. The cellular option actually now supporting 5G, so if you want a 5G capable iPad Pro, you can do that now. And next up, let's talk about something that I don't think too many people use that often, but it's still a feature we gotta cover, the cameras. And what the cameras are looking like on the iPad Pro. If I had to guess, I would think that most people use the camera system on the iPad Pro for virtual reality because of that LiDAR scanner you get as well, or for just like in the field photo work, because I don't know, I just don't picture people going around, especially with the 12.9-inch model, taking photos of things in public, unless you're Zach Talks Tech. But besides that, I just don't think people utilize the cameras as much as maybe Apple thinks. But regardless of what your needs are or what you gotta do, you got cameras on the iPad Pro, and this is what you're getting with that camera housing. On the M1 iPad Pro, you are getting a wide lens and an ultra wide lens. Again, of course, with that LiDAR sensor completing the ensemble. The wide camera is clocking in at 12 megapixels with a fixed f1.8 aperture, and our ultra wide camera is clocking in at 10 megapixels with a fixed f2.4 aperture. The ultra wide camera also sporting a 125-degree field of view. Your M1 iPad Pro cameras all also will come with True Tone flash support as well as Smart HDR3 support. And all that, of course, will be completed with the True Depth camera system on the front. That True Depth camera is sporting a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera with a fixed f2.4 aperture and a 122-degree field of view. With the M1 iPad Pro, if you're using it for video, also being capable of filming up to 4K 60 frames per second on the wide lens, or slow-mo support up to 1080 240 frames per second. And all these cameras, of course, are complete with what Apple calls 5 studio quality microphones. And I'm the kind of guy that will always try to use an external audio system when I can, but if I'm doing some telecommunicating, if I'm in a Zoom call, if I'm trying to live stream from my iPad Pro, nice to see you got 5 studio quality microphones to actually help you up the quality of your entire audio and or video experience. So with all that having been said, and there was a lot that was said, but with all that having been said, here are my final thoughts on the M1 iPad Pro. I really want to love all models of the M1 iPad Pro. I really do, and I kinda do, but with an asterisk here. Little star, asterisk, hold up. I guess I'm a little bitter and I can't quite get over the fact that Apple decided to put the XDR display only in the 12.9-inch model. I just don't like the idea of having to upgrade to the larger 12.9-inch display size just to get the XDR display, when I think we all know it could have been possible in the 11-inch model. And it's not even the price difference between the two screen sizes. Like, if I liked the 12.9, it would be no problem, but it's more so just not having the option of having an XDR display on the smaller size model. Everything else about the iPad Pro, I mean, what's not to love? You got the M1 chip now. It's a blazing fast computer without being a computer. I just really wish we got the XDR display in the 11-inch model and didn't have to upgrade to this monster of a tablet, the 12.9-inch model, for the XDR display. So all in all, I love the new M1 iPad Pro. Both of them are great upgrades, specifically because of the M1 chipset, but if we're gonna add the display onto it too, I think it's a swing and a miss that it's only on the 12.9-inch model and not on the 11-inch. No matter what your plans are for the M1 iPad Pro, I'm a huge fan of the M1 being across all of Apple's devices, the iPad Pro obviously included now, so no matter what you're trying to do with the iPad Pro, I'm pretty sure it'll live up to your expectations, and you're gonna be impressed by what this thing is capable of and the thin package that it is. As always, if you guys are interested in finding out more about the M1 iPad Pro, or just to snag one of these puppies for yourself, you guys could always head to my affiliate link, bmac.link/M1 iPad Pro, bmac.link/M1 iPad Pro, or as always, there will be a clickable link in the video description box below as well, so check that out if you so choose to do so. I'm gonna go finish watching Jaws in HDR, because I could do that now on the iPad Pro. It's actually kind of scary. Sometimes it feels like the shark's actually jumping out at me. I'm like, whoa! But it's just a movie. I'll see you guys in my next video. It's too lifelike, man. I can't do it. I can't do it. Can't do it. Gonna have to do it.